Hey everybody, Ken Sutton here with Apogee Quote Agent Training Network, and we have an awesome guest, a rock star, Cami Adams. She's with Creative Legacy Group. She's an agency builder. She has her own agency, and it's great to have. She's a special guest because not only does she do final expense, but she's also very good and knowledgeable with retirement planning, Medicare, ancillary, and all other types of life insurance. So she does a ton. She's been in the business for going on 10 years. She started in 2013. Super positive. During some of the agency building meetings that we have, she's always, got great stuff to say, and always a great attitude. And I think she's going to add a lot of value to everybody watching out there, whether you're in any of those fields, looking to get into any of those fields, or trying to gain more knowledge. So, Cami, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna hand it over to you and ask, just talk a little bit about, who you are, what you do, but first, how did you get started in all this, and then, take it from there.
Well, it's funny how. Hi, Cami Adams, and thank you, Ken, for having me on. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here and speak to your audience. So I appreciate that. We're getting to know each other. We haven't met. I don't believe we've met in person yet, have we?
No.
No. Okay, so that's the cool thing about having these remote offices, which I'm sure we'll touch on later, how this kind of works. But Vegas, we'll meet in Vegas, I think, right? Are you coming to Vegas?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to get ready for the mastermind in Vegas.
Yeah, so very exciting. I guess about 10 years ago, I had a cousin that has been in the business for a long time. Just FE, and he was at my house, and I knew he kind of went on these great trips, but he basically was at my house at the time, and he talked about picking up the new Aetna product, which was a brand new final expense product that had just come out right around 2012, 2013. And he said, yeah, their trip is Barcelona. And I was like, Barcelona? I was like, really? I was like, so I knew nothing about insurance. I was like, so you just write their products and like, they're going to take you on a trip? And he's like, yeah. I owned a spa, a health and wellness spa. I was a massage therapist for, 12 years or so. And so, I literally had no interest in insurance, wanted nothing to do with it, knew that I just had to pay my car insurance every month, but I knew nothing really about life insurance, didn't have any life insurance. But prior to that happening, my husband's mother had died. And she had no life insurance. So I'd kind of, had an awakening with all of that happening, but it all happened really within a month of each other. She passed away. He said, Barcelona, Spain. And I was basically like, I'm in. That was probably in May of 2013. We got licensed. My husband and I both got licensed in July of 2013. He started full-time in August. I worked the spa and also worked insurance. So I had two businesses and three children at the time. Three children at the time, babies, all under, I don't know, probably 6 years old.
Wow.
And so we were busy, very busy. But we qualified for that trip in 6 months. We went to Barcelona, never looked back. There wasn't a plan B for me ever. I sold the spa in 2014, beginning of 2014, which, so 6 months after being in the insurance business. So, wow. And that's never looked back. It was the best decision ever made.
Wow. Awesome.
And not having wanted to ever do anything with it is just kind of a funny story. So anyway.
Yeah. My wife's a massage therapist.
So, oh, wow.
Yeah, we met while she was in school for massage therapy. So that's neat. I appreciate the professionalism with the real title. So
yeah, exactly.
Some people say, "Oh, she's a masseuse." I'm like, no, she's a massage therapist.
And she doesn't work in a massage parlor either. For all of you people, that's kind of an insult. Like, it is therapy, muscle therapy.
Yeah. And when I was doing a lot of my training for like my martial arts, she would always be working on me, and she worked on other athletes and, on people who needed help and like a lot of recovery. So that's awesome. You come from a service centered background. So it's really, and, when I started my business face to face, I had just one, but he was a baby, and now we have two, and it's still difficult with two. So I can only imagine having, 3 babies, and then you and your husband both. Wow. So that adds so much. That takes a lot of effort, let alone to be a parent of multiple children, running two businesses, and then you and your husband being, entrepreneurs. So that's awesome. That's really,
and
really.
He traveled. He was gone. So he was gone. He did the door knocking model, which is what we started on. And so he was gone. And we have a fourth baby now. She's the youngest is 6-year-old, and the oldest is 13 now. So we have 4 now total. Oh. And it's
awesome.
There's never a dull moment around here, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's a special thanks for taking the time, because I know you've got way more important things with the kids, but that just shows you're business minded, and you're able to really take grasp of the schedule and really work everything together. That's a big piece, whether you have kids or not, is being able to manage your personal life with it. And that's, you're doing a great job doing it for 10 years, added another child, and growing your business. So did you just start off with just life insurance, or did you start off with multiple avenues?
No, when we started, it was life insurance. And really, when going on that Aetna trip to Barcelona, we were the minority. The majority of people were there for Medicare production and so forth. And I'm like, Meta what? Like, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. And they all looked at us like we were aliens. They're like, wait, you just sold final expense and you made this trip. And we're like, yeah, what did you do to get here? Backflips? How did you get here? We were so green and just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just innocent. We had no clue. We just, and we were just excited. And and that's how you are when you, in the beginning, you're just very excited about it if you're working properly and consistently, and we can get into that later. But, we had no idea. And so I wish, and I've talked about this on quite a few things, I wish that if I had a time machine that I could go back and tell myself to do certain things earlier than I did, than I did in my career. But I think, saying that I like is in due time, and things happen in due time. You got to enjoy that journey while you're going through it, because it's part of your story. So.
Oh yeah. Tree doesn't just grow to be a big oak overnight. An acorn starts in it. You need to take care of it. So I'm a big believer in that as well. You said you're like an alien at the Barcelona trip. My first year in the business, I was face to face, and I went to Arizona, and I was like number 6 of the agents in the country with Transamerica. And I was like the only person who sold final expense that was up on stage and got an award. And everyone was like, what do you do? I was like, I sell final expense. They're like, what leads? I'm like, direct mail, door knocking. They're like, what? Like it was like, they were like, what? It was the weirdest thing. Cause I'm thinking like, wait, what do you guys do? They're like, oh, I sell these, big policies or all corporates, all this other stuff. And I'm like, wow, my first year in the business. And it was like, that was an eye opener for me. And I think an eye opener for a lot of people. And so that's cool to hear that, there's similarities there.
Yeah.
What was that like? How did so you heard about Medicare or Meta what, when you were on the trip, and is that how you started getting into the other avenues, or how did that start?
It was a little later. Just some friction from upline, not really wanting to start that part of the business. Oh, no. We just need to focus on this, stay in this lane, stay in this lane, stay in this lane. So now I'm like a disruption of all the lanes. Like I come in and I'm like, why would you do that? Like, you need to do more than just final expense. You need to do X, Y, and Z, and, for all different reasons. But Brandon Clay, who is a Medicare guru, anybody who's thinking about Medicare, you need to grab his books, and Brandon Clay, and read them. And it will make sense why you want to do something that creates true residual income. And that is what Medicare and the ancillary products do. So, we were very fortunate. He mentored us. He taught me basically how to do Medicare, and he's moved on to bigger and better things. And, but he is a force. It was just a force in the Medicare world, and has remained a very good friend, and still a mentor, one of my most favorite mentors out there. So,
awesome. Yeah. It's nice to hear you given good recognition where it's deserved. So that's wonderful. Now, so I know you got a bunch of different stuff that you're doing, but I kind of want to ask, a broad question, since you started the business, what do you find some of your biggest successes in this business have been, or, and just talking about insurance in general for you?
define successes, I guess. Like give me a narrow that down for me a little bit, because things change, as you, when I first got into business, it was like, oh, I want to go on these trips, and I love the trips, don't get me wrong. Like I love that side of the business. I mean, because I love to travel, but also because you build relationships with people in the carriers, you build relationships with other agents, which it's always interesting how things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and how God has a bigger plan most of the time that we don't understand. While we're going through some things, we don't understand what the end game is, and it's not our place to. But so it's I love the trips, but you develop over time, and things are more important to you in a different way. And like now, I guess I like seeing agents succeed. I like helping other agents do things earlier in their career. Like, if you'll just listen to me, if you'll just trust me, and if you'll just start doing some extra things, like you'll look back and be better off than than you ever could have thought, or better off than it'll just really make a difference. So
well, that's a great answer. And and when you ask to define successes, it's really what you feel you I guess put a footprint on, and what makes you smile, or what makes you happy. I know that can be like, oh, what makes you happy, but that's great to hear. And that's like good servant's attitude, and God's got a great plan for us all, I believe, and we don't know the end of it. And looking back, some of those hard times, the pruning and the training, maybe it's a bloody nose, to speak, figuratively, but you looking back, you get stronger from it. So it's really good to hear. I appreciate you putting that in there. And it's nice, seeing success in other people. And like you said, your agency building, and you're training other agents. And that's a great teacher that you want. I believe that I want a teacher that wants to make me better. And, and I take on the same type of mentality with the agents I'm working with. Is I want you to be better than me, and I want you to excel quicker than I excel, cutting out as much of the junk as you possibly can. I mean, there's still going to be hard times, but that's the mentality that makes students great, is having a teacher who will in a way give it all away, no holds bar. Here is what I've learned, and I'm giving it to you. So that's really great to hear.
And I think the other part of that too is that you have to be willing to do the work yourself, and you have to lead by example. And if I don't ever expect anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, I mean, I knocked on the doors. I worked by myself. I mean, it was hard, face to face, as you know, it's not easy. I mean, in that at all. And so for years, I thought, God, there has to be something better. There has to be something easier. There has not easier, but just, I mean, it was just a lot. You're gone for 12 hours. You're in the elements. It's hot. I live in the South. I mean, humid. There's bugs, a lot of bugs, and some people have lots of bugs in their homes, and that's the nice way to put things. I mean, it's just, you are really affected by the elements inside the house and outside the house. So you just don't ever know. But I loved it. I mean, it was like, you didn't know what to expect. So every day was different. And I loved that aspect of it. Of course, you were able to provide a great living for your family, like nothing I've ever seen, for helping somebody with something that they needed. And that they needed an ethical, moral person to help them with. And something else, Brandon Clay has a saying. It's called, "As you serve, you deserve." And and it's talking about serving the proper way and that kind of thing. And there's also a term that I like that's called a disruption of the industry, because I think the insurance industry has been thought of, it's had a negative connotation sometimes, because there were agents out there who did not lead with their heart and do what was best for the clients and things like that. So I always say it's a disruption of the industry in a good way, and doing what's right and best for, to me, the most important part of the population, which is the seniors. I mean, they have the stories to tell, and they have the knowledge of things that we'll never understand. And there's just so much that can be learned from them and their stories. And so they need to be taken care of.
Well said. And, disrupting the industry in a positive way, again, it's a it's, if you're biblical, for me, I'm biblical, I'm a Christian. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I'm not ashamed. And, Jesus did the same thing. He came and he disrupted the whole thing with like, this is how it's got to be. You got to love your neighbor, love your enemy. And then the same thing with the insurance business. I try to show those principles to my agents as well. You got to have the heart for it. We're here to do good. And yeah, there are going to be agents, like you said, and it's unfortunate. There's agents, there's police, there's restaurant workers, there's janitors who just don't do things the right way. But there is the other side of it. There are good people out there. And that's part of, why I wanted you to come on and why I'm doing this, is to show like there's light in this world. There's light in this industry. There are good people really helping and really, and it's, you said, you serve to deserve, the laborer deserves his wage, even the oxen get fed. It's a righteous wage. And it's good to hear that. It's good to hear it, especially from somebody who's not me, because I have all those videos, just my head blabbing on and on. So, thank you for sharing that. It's appreciated.
You're welcome.
So, let me ask, what do you attribute to some of your successes? I mean, you talked about being able to, help and serve agents and serving clients. What do you think that comes from? Like, what do you attribute to all that?
Well, I think that my parents growing up, they always were entrepreneurs. They always had their own businesses. I never really had the desire to ever work for anybody. And I jokingly say I'm unemployable because I just want to do things my own way. Call it stubbornness, call it freedom, call it whatever you want to call it. But I want to do, I appreciate systems and all that kind of stuff. But I want to have the freedom to not be punching a clock. And if I want to and am able to not have to work because I want to go see my kids' program or I want to go on vacation, I don't want to have to ask anybody if I can do that or not. Yeah. And so I was raised, my dad was a fishing guide. He was, which sounds crazy, but growing up, he fished the tournament tour, Bassmasters. And then,
that's awesome.
So that's kind of, we grew up going as little kids. My mom would drag us around, 3 little kids, talk about, I don't know how she did it, staying in hotel rooms and going to, and I mean like not hotels, but like hotels, and going to like these tournaments with these 3 little kids. And anyways, so that's how we kind of grew up for a while. And then he became a fishing guide and a professional fisherman, but on West Point Lake. And he took huge clients like Kroger and Coca-Cola and Borden's Foods, all these big clients. Wow. Fishing when they had big, huge entertainment budgets. And so we grew up working. I mean, like we had, fishermen come in. We actually live in the house now that my parents built. We purchased it from them and we live here now. But so we grew up here, we worked here, we always worked. And I was one of 3 and I was the one that liked to work. I wanted my own money. I've always been that way. I wanted to. So anyways, I made horrible little pieces of jewelry that people took pity on me and purchased when I was, 7, 8, 9 years old. I mean, I've just always, worked. So I don't, I think I just learned it. I would say I'm very similar to my dad because he's just always worked, and my mom has too. But I mean, I think my dad and I have very similar personalities.
That's great. Fishing is difficult. Running a fishing charter is extremely difficult. We have friends in Nashville, and one of them is oh my goodness, I hope I don't mess up, the guitar player for Lee Brice, I believe, if you know who Lee Brice is. And I hope that's right. Oh well, I think that's right. And but he owns a fishing charter as well, and he does that when he's not playing guitar. And we went down, and he's like, let me take you out for a day, and I'll show you how it works. And first we went bait catching, and then he had to treat the water. And he was like, we got to get this bait in here quick. And he was like running. And it was a whole ton of work. Then he took us out on the lake, and we went fishing, and we got striper, and then we filleted them, and then he cleaned them, and then we ate them the next day. And it was just like a whole ton of work. It was super fun and super awesome. Yep. But I mean, he worked in order for like one charter for a few hours. It was like up at 5, working all day, and then back when the sun was setting and not even done yet. And it was like,
we didn't see my dad growing up very much because he worked all the time. I mean, he was up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning catching bait, and then he was fishing, and sometimes he had 2 trips a day. And sometimes we had, he would hire other guides, and we'd have 20 or 30 fishermen here, fishing in extra boats, and we had to feed them. We cooked and, all this kind of stuff. I mean, so Yeah,
That's awesome.
not afraid to work. So
Yeah, well, hey, well, it shows. I mean, you're doing great things. You're teaching people, and you're doing it the right way. Um, okay, so we've talked a lot about successes and fun times, but I will ask, what were some of your biggest trials, with this business, just starting out, or even now with where you're at?
like we were talking about, the journey is, it's interesting. I was with the same group for the majority of my career. Basically, I started with them, helped them build their agency, but didn't have a ownership or anything in that agency. And some things happened that I didn't agree with, questioned, and things just kind of went downhill from there. And it was, and I'll go back to God, because I think God had been saying, you need to leave for a while. I was their top producer, had been for years, and very strong in everything that I did. And I had my agency within their agency, but I had kind of hit the ceiling there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there was no budging. It was made apparent, very clear.
Yeah.
On anything. And so I, by no fault of my own, I had to leave very quickly. And so it was God's way of saying it's time. And I think God knew, hey, I got to push her out. Like, I'm going to have to throw her out of the nest, because she just, and honestly, I didn't really know how to extract myself, if that makes sense. So everything happened as it was supposed to happen. And ended up meeting Jeff from Anthony Martin, who I had met my husband and I had met on an insurance trip. And he said, you need to go talk. We had remained friends. I think we've known Anthony since 2018, I think, is when we really originally met him. And so he said, you need to go talk to Jeff. You need to go talk to Jeff Root. And I was like, okay. So that's kind of how all of this started. And I came, it was a year ago in May, to the mastermind in Austin. So basically what's happening in October, but it happened in May last year. And so that was the first time that I met Nick and Jeff in person. And so I guess I've been with digital for, over a year. So yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
That transition was challenging, I guess is what I should say. Like, it was just it was hard, but it's all for the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great that you share that, because, we get pushed in different manners and different ways. So, to be in tune with that and, with your beliefs and your values. I had a similar experience when I was working face to face. One of the mentors I had, I found out that he was trying to, show me some things that actually weren't the right way to do things. And I was like, well, wait a second. I just found out that, that's not how it should be. And I had to get pushed out of that. And it was a hard thing. It was a hard thing to leave, because, when you're in a relationship like that, it's almost like you're constantly being manipulated or lied to. And it's like, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm thankful that I was able to get out of that. And I thank God in the same manner. So that's really good to hear. It's just interesting, the similarities. I talk to a lot of people in the insurance business, and I talk to a lot of people who were taught wrong, or they were lied to and deceived, and then they get a real bad taste for the industry, and then they don't trust anybody, and it can be hard to overcome that. And I'm extremely thankful as well for Nick and Jeff and everybody at Digital BGA, because I can say hands down, been the most transparent, honest, and awesome group to partner with. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
I agree 100%, 150%. I mean, because that was the main thing that I was attracted to with them, was that they were so honest and they were so open, and they were not trying to hide anything. And I was like, I'm not really used to this. Are you sure? Yeah. Like this, okay. And so that was very refreshing, and they are not like a lot of the other groups out there. So
yeah, no one's lying about owning anything they don't own or doing anything. It's like, it's all real, and you can tell. And you talk to some people and they start telling you things, and you're like, what is this? I don't know. And I'm not here to talk bad. So
yeah. But I know what you're saying.
And just talking about personal experience and talking about truth. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but we can overcome that. And there are good people, there are good agents and good agencies out there. And I think far more than there are bad. In fact, I think unfortunately the bad get a lot of attention because it's like, when you go to a restaurant and you see a couple of good reviews and then all of a sudden somebody has a bad night and they want to put a bad review on and then get all their friends to put a bad review on. So the bad gets all that negative attention. But I truly believe there's a lot more good in the industry. And I mean, digital BGA is a huge part of that. So especially in telesales, I mean, you started off face-to-face. I started off face-to-face. I know the elements were really harsh as well, being hot with the bugs. And then in Pennsylvania, dealing with snow and ice and winter, and it's like scraping your car off or getting stuck in the driveway. It's like, oh my goodness gracious. So I have a story. I won't tell the whole thing, but I got stuck in this, like it wasn't quite snowing, but it was getting cold, and I was taking this driveway that I thought it was like an ATV trail for emergency ATVs out in the woods. I'm like driving through this like little creek in my Honda Accord, thinking it might be a driveway. I don't know, but we got out, and I don't have to do that anymore. So it's nice being able to work all over the country.
Yeah, I had a similar one. My husband, one day I called him, and fortunately it wasn't too far, but I had gotten stuck in the mud. It had been raining and I was stuck, and I had a big like SUV type, and he came and got me out. But I mean, like, I don't know what I would have done. I guess I would have had to call a wrecker, but it was on this little mud, like narrow road, and like,
Then the anxiety, like I got to call these people and tell them I'm not going to make it, and hopefully they answer. And
more importantly, I was going to ruin my shoes. I mean, that was,
can't have that.
Anyways,
Well, let me ask. So you've been in it for 10 years. When did you actually start with your agency building?
I think in 2016, we really started bringing on agents. We had a couple here and there. My parents ended up joining us in the industry after my dad, kicking and screaming, did not. He couldn't fish like he was fishing anymore. He helped do some marketing and build up a hospice company. And anyway, so he and my mom came over, did extremely well. They were still to this day, the best agents I ever brought on, which is kind of funny that I brought them on, but they were, did phenomenal things. So we have a lot of great memories. We went on a lot of trips together and that kind of thing. So that was fun. So I'd say, in 2016 and all the agents that were still with me have transitioned over, when I left. So that's been good. So so that was a process, but it's good.
Yeah, so, I bet. And that's nice. You're keeping the family business alive, and you just transition in business. It's like the generational passing down and growing. And then that's really, really cool. What a cool story. This is exciting. I know a lot of people are going to love it. So did you think that you'd be where you are today, looking back 5 years or when you started in the insurance industry? Did you think you'd be, building an agency and then bringing your family on board and, doing all this good stuff?
I think that I don't know that I really realized where I would be, but I think I'm where I'm supposed to be. My parents actually don't work anymore. They've retired. My dad's 72 and my mom's 70. So my dad's has some health challenges, so they're not working anymore. But originally my husband and I were working together, which he's stepped out of the industry and has started a different type of business, a wood business, and he makes furniture and remodels and all that kind of stuff. So
awesome.
I don't know that I love where I am, but I don't know that I knew that it was going to look the way that it looks. And I think part of it is I just have embraced the journey. And I think that if anybody can get anything from anything I say, don't enjoy the journey, because the more that you can enjoy the process and the journey of where you want to be, the quicker you're going to get there. And like, it's just part of your story. And my dad always told me, struggles build character. And I remember looking at him one day and I was like, I got enough character. I'm good. I don't need any more. I'm good. But that was something he always said. So I don't know if that was the best answer, but I don't know that I had a clear picture. Now I know where I want to be 5 years from now, for sure. I know exactly where I want to be, but I think in due time, that's something I like to remind myself of in due time.
Awesome. So, I'm going to ask you about that here in a second now, since you brought it up. But that's a really, enjoy the journey. I think that's a wise thing and to have in your mind. And that was a common trait in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a long time training, and, you can't really focus on the next belt or learning the next thing, or it's just enjoying the process, being there to be there and being present and enjoying it. And yeah, it's hard. You get beat up. Same thing with this business. It's hard. You get no's, you get beat up, you get people slamming the phone down, or people telling you to go pound salt. I've said all this stuff before, but you got to enjoy the rewards of it. And like you said, you got to take that as thickening of the skin or building character. That's, building yourself up. And it's all of strengthening, all of that. And, I'll talk about God. I like to do that, but it's the same thing with my faith. Struggling, it builds my faith. It makes it stronger. It builds that relationship closer, because you get stronger from it. It's like working out. You got to break those muscles down for them to build back up. And it's the same thing with this business, with our minds. And it's the same thing in anything that you want to be good at. And I think, you got to go through, you got to get stuck in the mud. And sometimes you got to call somebody to say, hey, help pull me out, because I don't want to get my shoes dirty, but I'm stuck in the mud. And that's good. That's, being able to ask for help and know that there's going to be struggle, and to have a leader like yourself for your agents who's been through adversity, who's been there, like you said, face to face, who's doing it over the phone, been doing it for 10 years. And that's part of the game is dealing with that. That's what agents need. They don't need, the selling of the dream. Like, yeah, this business can do a lot of good things, and it's good to focus on the long-term picture and the good thing.
Right.
But we need that reality of like, okay, well, this is a real business and there's real challenges, and they can and have been overcome. Right. And you've done it, and we've done it, and we're going to lead you through that. But it doesn't, you can't take them away. You can never take away the hard times, because without them, you can't always be sunshine. You can't have the sweet without the bitter. How many cliches do you think I can say in 2 minutes?
No, but it's true. And it's like, you're much more relatable to someone if you were just handed everything and you worked for nothing. If you think of, no offense to like trust fund kids out there, but they've never had a job. Maybe they've never had to worry about where the money was going to come from. Anything they wanted, they bought it. So if you take that and you look at somebody who raised themselves up from living on the streets, and is now a multimillionaire, and they were living on the streets and they were homeless, and I'm not that I was, I'm just saying, in comparison to the two, what has more, what is going to give you more motivation? It's about, if they can do it, then you should be like, well, gosh, if they can live on the streets and then do what they've done. And there are plenty of those rags to riches stories out there. I can't think of somebody straight off the top of my head, but it's, it just is an amazing journey. And I think enjoying the journey it's like what you said, it's not easy. It's not always going to be easy, but there's a reason for the hard times, and the hard times make you stronger in the long run. So.
Yeah. And just like you said, if someone's been given everything, they have had no challenges. And if they're leading somebody else, when that person comes to a challenge, they're going to go, I don't know. I never dealt with that. But being able to lead, like you're saying, from experience, I've dealt with this. I know how to overcome this. I know how to help you overcome this. Trust me. Just trust me in this, and I will lead you through it. And that's important. It's important as a leader to be able to be where your agents or the people you're teaching were, whether it's in insurance, whether it's in jiu-jitsu, whether it's in farming, fishing, building furniture. It doesn't matter. You got to know, you got to get splinters, in order to pull one out. Or if you never pulled one out, then good luck.
Yeah.
So okay. So you said, where you want to be in 5 years. You have some sort of a picture. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. I think in 5 years, I would like to have potentially built my business to the point where I'm able to potentially sell it and continue to consult. And I would love to speak. I would love to speak and encourage other people, especially women, in this industry, which, no offense to you being a man, but it is still a very male dominated industry, and has been, it has been for the whole time I've been in it. There's been some change, within the past 10 years, but still it's nice to I've recently gotten to kind of have some coaching with some a particular lady who's a leader in the business, and it's nice to have somebody to look at and say, "Gosh, I have a female." I have a female leader that I can look up to and learn from. Not that I can't learn from men, I have plenty of times, but I think to me that is just something that is important to me. It's like, seeing another woman be successful in an industry that has been always very well known to have been a male dominated industry. And, so for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I don't think a lot of women wanted to run debit routes, which is kind of how life insurance began, was running debit routes. And if you young children out there don't know what that means, then look it up. But
Google it.
It's basically collecting cash from people's house. You think that's probably not the safest thing, and especially this day and age. But that's how they started selling life insurance and so forth. And so so I know there's probably some reasons for it, but anyway, so that to me is. I have a lot of female agents, and I love the fact that we're changing that metrics in the industry and creating more strong women agents. So
yeah, that's awesome. No, I'm not offended at all. I think that's great. There's a bunch of women who are on the leaderboards, and they're crushing it and out writing a lot of the men, and I think that's fantastic. It's an equal opportunity, and you know what? Frankly, when you're on the phone with somebody, I was just talking. I have a few agents that I'm working with in a pipeline, and some of the women that I've talked to, they sound like a lot more pleasing to talk to than I think I sound, or some of the men I talk to, just because their voice is a little bit lighter, and it's nice to talk to somebody like that on the phone, especially as a professional. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that's great. So thank you for your role in that. And Foresters, they're a women's fraternal organization as a life insurance company, and I love, or I'm sorry, not Foresters, Royal Neighbors of America. Yeah. See, it's been a long day.
I know what you meant.
And they're great. I love Royal Neighbors. They're one of my favorite companies. So, okay. So I'm going to kind of take like a little twist here and talk a little bit about outside the insurance business, and what are some of your goals outside of life insurance that you're working on?
Well, my children take up a lot of time. I played tennis when I was younger competitively, and so my 13-year-old loves tennis. So awesome. She'll be playing. She'll be in 8th grade, but starting to play on the high school team as an 8th grader. She can play in the JV. Nice. So that's fun. My son is a big fisherman. He loves to fish. He wants to fish professionally. We have 1 boy and 3 girls. So. And the other 2, one of them, the third one, Eliza, is probably going to rule the universe one day. She's got my personality. She's very strong. I'm like, I think you just need to go ahead and sign up for law school, because all you want to do is argue. And the baby is Livy Wells, and she is a pleaser and lover and just sweet heart, and wants to make everybody happy. So, and we have 2 doodles and some chihuahuas, and so we got kind of a farm going on here. And we live on the lake, so I love boats. I've got a dream boat that it's a 1977 Hatteras yacht, and it's kind of ridiculous. My husband doesn't want me to talk about it anymore, but I'm like, it's 1977. It's meant to be. That was the year I was born. I was like, I need this boat. But anyways, boats, and I love art. Also, I'm a big. I like local art and helping artists and. Things like that.
Is that some of your artwork in the background?
One of my friends' artwork. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So some of collections, but the paintings are of my children that my friend did of the children. So yeah.
Awesome.
I'm not like talented like that, but yeah.
Very family oriented.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. My wife's a musician, and we love art. I'm not the best artist. I like martial arts, so I guess that's a form of art. Yeah. But that's cool stuff. Okay, so a couple bucket list questions. What are a few things that you want to do before you die?
Definitely travel. I love to travel. I mean, so Australia, New Zealand. I've traveled a good bit, but not to that part of the world. So yeah, definitely that Galapagos Islands, because I love turtles. So I want to see all the turtles. And I'm like notorious for stopping in the middle of the road. I'm surprised I haven't been hit and killed. I stop and pick up turtles and move them out of the middle of the road.
Good. They need that.
So I know pointless things you now know about me, but yeah. So I love turtles, and yeah, but my kids, I want to take my kids to Alaska. We had actually qualified for a trip, an Alaskan cruise, and then of course COVID hit, so we didn't get to go on the trip, but we were going on that trip. It was a cruise and we were taking the kids with us. And so they, there's nothing more motivating than your children knowing that they get to go on a trip with you. And so there were some carriers that would allow you to bring your kids. You paid, you had to pay to bring them and so forth. But so my children have been to Aruba, Costa Rica, and we're going to go to Alaska with us, all on insurance trips. And so yeah, I definitely want to take them to Alaska so we can do that one day. So.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And then if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
I think maybe flying, just because it just sounds really cool. Like you could hit places really fast, and I'm short. And so maybe I would, if I could fly, that means I'd be taller than my husband, which would be really exciting because he's 6'4" and I'm 5'2", and he's always like, why are you so short? And I'm like, I don't know, why are you so tall? So maybe flying, I think that would be fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow. I think this was awesome. We've talked about a lot of great stuff, and every interview or conversation, I should say, is unique. And I think you've really showed value in why you are where you are and why you're able to show other agents, you're open, you're honest, you're fun to talk to. I think that's awesome. Thank you. And then let me ask one last question before we wrap it up here for time's sake. So is there any one last thing that you want to highlight for anybody listening that, you really want them to grasp and just you really want them to get, you really want to say?
I would say I'm helping a lot of agents right now with retirement accounts, which is basically annuities. And a lot of agents are afraid of it because they're like, gosh, that's like big numbers and big accounts and big money for, that people have, like 401k rollovers and things like that. Don't be scared. Find somebody that can mentor you, which I'm doing within, kind of with my agents, with some digital BGA agents and so forth and things like that. It can I really believe in the fact that it can keep an agent, working and in business basically. And you can really help a client with protecting their money, especially right now with the market being down at, roughly 20%. And so if you are going to make a decision about adding something to your portfolio, just servicing the whole client, which we didn't really talk about, but I'm a big proponent of servicing the whole client. Don't just service a piece of the client, because somebody's going to come in behind you and potentially take your final expense business, and you don't want them to do that. So add things gradually. Don't overwhelm yourself. It's not as complicated as you think it is. And just plug into a system and somebody that can help you, and you can change your life and you can change your client's life, and good things.
Awesome. And if I could say this, I know we missed talking about some of the other products that you offer, like annuities and the Medicare and the Medicaid. So maybe we'll have to do this again and we'll dive deeper into that part of it. But we were having so much fun talking about fishing and everything else, but I think it was still good. But if I can say this, I'm sure Cammie, if correct me if I'm wrong, but you can reach out to Cammie as well if you have questions or if you're interested in getting into that market and need a mentor, need someone to teach you. Is that okay if I say something like that?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Good, because I said it.
So
awesome. Well, again, Cammie, this was excellent. And I just want to, again, highlight for everybody listening and watching, that Cammie's running an awesome business and an awesome agency doing great things. And like she said, it's not just the final expense, it's a full service for her clients. And she's teaching her agents that. And clients love that. They're not just getting a one and done, slam a policy down and never hear from them again. And, like I said, maybe we'll be able to do this again and dive deeper into those aspects of the industry and get some tips and tricks and, more more to put on your tool belt so you can help more clients. So again, thanks so much, Cami, for taking the time. And for time's sake, we will put this to an end here. But thanks again. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else will.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Have a great night, and everybody else. Until the next time.